Hello everyone, this is Mr. here, and today I'm going to be talking about a movie called Under the Skin, starring Scarlett Johansson, directed by Jonathan Glazer, forgot his name for a second, and I am currently recovering from what I just saw, which was the strangest movie I've ever seen in my entire life. So, just strange, and guys, I've seen a lot of movies. I'm not someone who doesn't know movies well. I'm not gonna sit here and claim I'm like a movie expert, but I would say I know movies pretty well, and I've seen a lot of movies, and this is the strangest movie I've ever seen. I usually don't seek out strange movies, but I mean extremely strange movies, but this one was interesting, seemed interesting to me. So I just kind of wanted to talk about it because this is a movie that after you watch it, if you are interested in it, okay, first of all, if you don't like movies that are art house and don't tell you things, like don't shove things in your face and don't have a linear plot, if you like normal movies, why would you see this movie? Don't see it. You are going to hate this movie if you do not like extremely strange, visually like weird and completely non-linear plot like movies that don't really make any sense and leave you with a lot of unanswered questions. If you uh, if you don't like that kind of movie, you are going to hate this movie. I remember afterwards I went on YouTube and I decided to not look at anything before I did this review just to, have no unbiased opinion. But I did look on YouTube because I wanted to see like what other people thought about this movie, look up articles, all that things. And if you are the kind of person that's going to be interested in this movie, you're going to want to do that after you watch this movie. I guarantee you, because just watching the movie is not going to leave you with enough. You are going to be upset if you don't get more information on this movie. And I saw reviewers, and I mean I might as well say them. They're the Schmoes Knows, and while they are good reviewers, I have not watched it, and I'm gonna guarantee you guys. And if I'm wrong, I'm gonna be hugely surprised. But they're gonna hate this movie because they hated Drive, or I'm not sure if they hated Drive, but I'm pretty sure they did not like it, and they hated Only God Forgives. And Only God Forgives, right? Is like 1/10 of how strange this movie is. And Only God Forgives is a really art house strange movie, and it's similar in a few aspects. Like it has those really long shots, but I think Under the Skin is probably a better movie. But we let's get into the movie. And it's hard to discuss this movie without giving spoilers. So if there's a point where I'm going to spoil the movie, or if you just don't really give a shit, you can stay. But I'll give a spoiler alert. And if you don't give a shit, I mean, stay anyway. This is kind of a movie that spoilers really don't matter that much. It's kind of hard to explain. But anyway, we follow this alien. We're not really explained very much about the alien, where it's from, what its intentions are. All we know is that it's going around, and the alien is basically like uh, trying to, I guess, consume people, but it's a very strange. She seduces these men. At least the start of the movie and the first half and the second half of the movie are very different. But at the start, she basically seduces these men, mesmerizes them, brings them back to her house, and then they like walk towards her. They go into this black puddle of goo, and they basically like become one with her, and it is extremely, extremely unsettling. The imagery for there's one particular portion of the movie where it like shows two of the guys who got seduced by her, and it's so uh, I want to say disturbing, but it honestly didn't disturb me that much. It's so like you know just like you have no idea like what the hell is this? And I think I'm gonna talk my complaints later, but I think the film could have benefited from a few of those more surreal, strange scenes because that was one of the most interesting parts of the movie to me. And I mean, if you're gonna go in this direction, you might as well go all out, right? Um, to me, the most interesting part of the movie is, and people are gonna analyze this to no end, no end. I'm gonna tell you right now because the movie, the ending and the second half are extremely strange. But basically, my interpretation of it, and this is probably where you should leave if you don't like spoilers. But again, spoilers don't matter that much, and if you don't really give a shit, stay. Or if you've watched the movie, stay. The second half, my interpretation of it was basically looking at society and looking at humanity and looking at the world as if you had never been there and you had no idea about anything about how humans looked, how they thought, how anything looked on Earth. Because this alien clearly comes from a completely different world that doesn't know anything about Earth and learns everything. And in the second half of the movie, it was just like if you took out the first half when she did all that crazy shit and you just looked at the second half, it's really interesting, I think, in a way, because it's like you're. This is just how I looked at it, and this is not me trying to add meaning. This is genuinely what I thought the director was going for. I'm sure there are tons of theories, and this is probably not what the director was going for, but this is just my interpretation. Is that you're looking at the world through like a lens of you have no idea what this is, and the alien acts in a way of it's like she doesn't know. She's just simply observing what humanity is like and what humans are like, and trying to connect with people, and it's very interesting. Like she starts to feel sympathy, I think, towards people at the end because she meets that guy who's very nice to her, and I'm not really sure what happened, but you're not sure what happened with half the shit in this entire movie. But she warms up to him. They seem to be like getting along well. Anyway, there's like a sex scene, but then they're gonna have sex, and then she just suddenly stops. She takes a lamp, she examines her under portion, and then the scene ends. And the next scene, she we don't hear the guy again, or what happened between him and her, and she's just like leaving. We don't even. So I'm not really sure what happened to that. I guess I don't know. I'm not even going to go into what I think happened with that because there's so much more to talk about. I just want to go through this movie and then go back to my criticisms and positives later. Anyways, that's my interpretation of the second half, and I thought it was interesting. And you know what? I'm going to talk about the ending. Then I'm going to zoom back and I'm going to talk about something else, which I think I want to elaborate on, which is what I think would have made the movie better and the interesting parts, the good parts, the bad parts. So the ending really, really upset me, and I have watched endings to movies that are way sadder, that are way more disturbing. I've watched scenes that are much worse, much more violent, much more emotionally upsetting. But this ending, for some reason in particular, upset me a lot, and I do not know why. It is extremely strange because I shouldn't, because the entire first half of this movie, this chick was going around killing dudes. Not even killing them, like basically consuming them. And the second half of this movie, and then the ending of the movie, she gets burned, and her alien body gets burned, and I think basically she dies. I'm assuming. Um, she also has this. There's this dude on the motorcycle who I'm assuming is another alien who like follows her around and like monitors her and helps her out. I guess, but I'm not even gonna go into that. But anyway, I don't know why. It's just because towards the second half of the movie, she seemed to be like adapting to human society and trying to connect with people, and she just seemed so innocent and so naive. And I was just like, you wanted like things to work out and for her to like become like a normal person, even though she had done all these terrible things. It's so weird to sympathize with someone like that, but the movie was laid out in such a way that you totally did. Did anyone else feel this way? Because I certainly did. So when the guy tries to rape her or whatever, you're like, what the fuck? Like I don't do this. You feel terrible, and it's like such a drawn out sequence that it just really upset me. And I don't know why, because I've seen way worse, right? And don't like doubt like this is the first kind of movie I've seen. No, I've seen way worse. This particularly upset me for some reason. Anyways, then she accidentally rips off her skin, and like he sees like a hole in her skin. He's like, what the fuck? So he runs away, and I do not know why at this point she just decided to sit there in the woods and just like take her human skin off and just look at her own face. I'm not sure why her face was blinking back. I'm not sure whether the human skin had a life of its own because the human face was like looking back or whether it was just mechanical. I have no idea. Right, but the alien body just sits there for what must be a few minutes or a minute or something. The dude comes back, douses her with gasoline, lights her on fire. She runs off into the snow, and then she basically burns and dies. I'm assuming. Um, and I felt really its ending. It felt so inconclusive to me. But I'm I'm not going to sit here and complain about the ending forever. It's not the worst ending in the world. There could have been much worse. But I just want to go back and talk about some things that I think would have been better in the movie. There are a lot of sequences, right, that are just so drawn out, and you just sit there for like 10 seconds. It's a long time, and there's nothing is happening. You're just sitting there waiting for something to happen, and you could be like, oh well, I'm sure you could try and add meaning, but can we just be honest here? There were some points in this movie that just were unnecessary, and there's not really meaning to just staring at Scarlett Johansson looking at something forever. There are some shots that are, interesting. And by the way, cinematography in this movie is immaculate. A lot of the shots are really fantastic. The visuals are really fantastic. But I'll get to a little bit of that later. But there are a lot of shots that are interesting and make sense to the plot. And there are a lot of shots where I'm like, why is that even there? And there are a lot of parts where I'm like, why was that even there? Why did that need to be there? Um, and I think it would have been more interesting if the first half of the movie we'd seen more of those surreal, interesting aspects with the guys, because that one scene where the dude like becomes like all floppy, you know what I'm talking about if you watch the movie. You haven't watched the movie, at least go watch that scene because that scene is really really weird, really weird. And I can't wait to see what everyone else is saying about this movie because it is so interesting. And if they had focused more on that, and if we had seen a little more of Scarlett Johansson, because it just felt so drawn out, and if things had gone a little bit quicker, and if we had more time at the end of the movie instead of that abrupt ending, we could have really seen her like adapt to human society. And I thought an ending would have been better if the ending was her finally like getting into the society of humans and trying to live amongst them normally after like doing all these crazy things, and like seeing her slowly like descend and trying to understand the human species more. I thought that would have been interesting. um, but yeah, that's basically what I thought would have been more interesting. And then the second half, if we had like not such an abrupt ending, if things had gone faster, or if we had a little more time on the end instead of just having that ending, which I didn't really like, and had more time and to let the story develop out instead of some of those tedious scenes and that ending, it would have been a lot more interesting of a story, more of those surreal scenes. That's my opinion, obviously. And also in terms of the cinematography, yeah, yeah, great cinematography. I mean, not always great, but nice views, and nice, awesome sequences and like pitch black or pure white that were interesting. And that's basically my opinion on the movie. I don't have much more to say. So I did like the movie. I thought it was interesting. I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, it had no meaning. It was just useless shit. Like I like certain art house movies. I think they're interesting, and I think saying that art house movies have no meaning isn't true. It's not necessarily about having a meaning, about applying your own meaning and trying to look at the film. I'm obviously not going to sit here and overanalyze it, but I thought it was an interesting movie. But obviously, it's not a perfect movie. It's not some masterpiece like some people are claiming it to be. And I already mentioned what I thought the flaws were. I'd probably give this a 7 out of 10. I hate to give number ratings to movies, but if I had to, I'd probably give it around a 7 out of 10. It and it, but here's a so I give it a 7 out of 10. It's a good movie. It's interesting. It's intriguing. It has a few flaws, but I like the meaning you can put behind it. But it does have a few flaws. But I'm warning you right now, if you don't like this kind of thing, you are gonna hate this movie. You don't watch it. If you don't like hard house movies, if you don't like, and this is obviously a terrible comparison, but it's the only real movie I can think of that like that if you I know but if you hate a movie like Drive or you hate a movie like Only God Forgives, I hate to mention those two movies, but if you hate those style of movies, you know who you are. If you don't like that, you are gonna hate this movie. This movie's completely different, but I think you're gonna hate it even more than you'd hate those because those are just like borderline art house. Um, but those are my thoughts on the movie. I'd love to hear anything you guys have to say, so comment below. Tell me what you thought of the movie. Tell me what you think I thought of the movie. Like, comment, subscribe, do all that jazz. Check out my channel. And thanks everyone for listening, and I hope to see you guys next time.